What's up, guys? Welcome to the Real Christian Show. My name is Ben Petch, and I'm the host of the Real Christian Show. Guys, I'm really excited because if you're new to the show, you already know that we do this because we need to help Christians speak up, defend their truths. There's a lot of things going on in the world, and I think a lot of people that believe in God and in Christ are very passive. And honestly, this is a platform so we can talk more about current issues, kind of like what's happening in the world, and also talk about with people that I believe that they're doing a great job with their platforms and they're defending their beliefs and truths and everything. So I'm really excited for today. Just so you know, we have 4 formats in the Real Christian Show. Number 1, we talk about current issues, politics, issues with the world. It's kind of like where you get your news. We're covering what happened with Trump and everything, the inauguration and all the executive orders he signed. So that's going to be really exciting. Second one, we talk about entrepreneurship, business, resources, social media, and how can we apply spiritual principles and faith in all those things so you guys can have resources and strategies and tactics to progress in your life and you want to do. Third, we interview cool people and their stories, and that's actually what we're going to do today. And then we have Q&As that you can submit your questions directly to my Instagram. I'm actually going to do a couple of Q&As this week because I had a lot of people reach out to me, so we're going to post their questions and answers this week. And the last thing, guys, remember, I believe in that the best marketing you can do is word of mouth. If you found value in this episode, in this podcast, share it with your friends. If you did not get anything from it, don't share it. I'm cool with that. But I'm a value-driven person. If it helps you get better, if you think there's value in this and the things we're going to talk about today, share it with your friends. You know, we depend on you guys 100%. I think that's like the best way to grow a brand is just by word of mouth. And if you guys found value in it, share it with your friends. So anyway, guys, today, I'm really excited because we have a very special guest, and her name is Alessia Nezhati. How you doing, girl?
Hello, I'm doing amazing. How are you?
Doing good. I'm very caffeinated. I drank mate this morning, and I'm drinking
Wow.
this beautiful Red Bull that just came out a couple weeks ago.
What's the
It's with,
flavor?
it's like a normal one. It has monk fruit, so it's like no sugar, not calories, but it's pretty good. But anyway,
Okay, that.
guys, let me tell you about Alice. So she's an online coach, fitness and nutrition. She's building a huge community online with women, and she's a singer and songwriter. And I just figured out that she also is a co-owner and co-founder of a tech company, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And we met, what is it, like 2 years ago?
I think a little bit longer, something like that, though.
Was it? I know we've been following each other on social media, and I love the stuff that you do and everything. I really admire it.
Thank you. I
And
feel like we definitely align in a lot of ways. When you post things, I'm always right there
I
commenting and
appreciate
liking.
it. Yeah, and this is the first thing that I want to talk to you about because one of the things I truly admire is your fitness transformation. I really want to talk about it. You posted this video of how you were before and who you are now is a completely different person.
Right.
So, and a lot of people see the end result, kind of like what you look like right now and everything. But I wanted to ask you this: what was the hardest thing in your fitness transformation?
That's a really good
Is
question.
that something that you focus on right now and helping, especially like women with it? But what was the hardest thing, like before?
Yeah, well, with my transformation, I had PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is a condition that affects 1 in every 10 women. So it's super common, but it's super undiagnosed. 75% of cases actually go undiagnosed. So a lot of women have
Really?
it, and you can get weight gain, you can get irregular periods, you can be infertile, you can have mood swings. There's so much stuff. I think my biggest struggle though was going to doctors and not getting the help that I needed. It was a lot of just like pushing medication and whatnot, which is, whole topic for another time.
Fully.
But, I think my biggest struggle was just figuring out what to do. It wasn't the discipline or anything. It was just that there was just so much out there. I didn't know what was the right thing to do.
So, for how long did you struggle with that?
I have had PCOS since I was 14, and I just finally healed it last year, and I'm 24.
Really?
Time. Yeah, a long time. But the weight gain was only a really big problem in college. So I'd say from like 2018 to 2022 was when I was steadily gaining weight. I was about 5'3", weighing 175, and it was majority fat. And so that was, super hard on my mental health. I moved to Utah. It was very difficult living there because, beauty standards and everything. I was already overweight, and then I dyed my hair blonde, and I wore colored contacts, and I really tried my best to be someone that I wasn't. Then
Oh,
I
you
found
wear
God.
color
Yeah.
contacts?
Yeah. I was looking at pictures yesterday trying to make a reel, and I saw myself blonde hair and blue contacts, and I was like, girl, you're Persian. You're not fooling anybody.
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
It's funny 'cause I dye my hair. My hair is kind of like darker. But I always dye my hair, and people think I'm like that it's natural. But I'm like, oh no, dude. It's like anyway,
And then they
whatever.
hear
But we
the
always change our
accent,
stuff physically.
right?
That's
They hear the
interesting.
accent. They're like, you're not from here.
Well, let me ask you this thing. I like to talk about just deep stuff, and I don't know if it's controversial or not, but this is something I see a lot. I want to get your take on it. I don't know
Okay.
if we agree on this, but this is my view of it. I see like a lot in like social media, like girls with like, you gotta love yourself and everything. But I'm the type of person that if you can control it, you can change it. If you're not proud of like what you see in the mirror, like weight wise, fitness wise, you can change it. So
Right.
what's your take? And I think especially with girls, because it's like social media, it's always promoted like, oh, love yourself, you're perfect the way you are, and if you're like out of shape or if you're overweight, like it's fine, and all this
Right.
stuff. What's your take on stuff like that?
I think I agree with you perfectly, actually. I think my take, I'm a very nice person in my approach, but I'm very to the point as well. I think you can absolutely change your body. PCOS is one of the main reasons why people say, oh, I can't lose weight. They always blame it on something. And I was a victim of that too. I always blame my PCOS. But now that I solved everything and lost the weight, I'm like, it's really just an excuse. It's everything is in your head. There came a time in my life where I was not confident at all. From high school until like 2 years ago, I just hated myself. I could not stand myself. I didn't know why. It was my personality. It was my face, my hair, my makeup, my body, like whatever. I just didn't love myself. And everybody was always telling me like do affirmations and go do some self-care or whatever. It just never was a thing for me.
Yeah.
I'm very analytical. I work in data and science. That's how I think. So I made 3 lists. The first list was everything that I love about myself. It was the hardest list to write, but it was every single thing I love about myself. The second list was everything I hate about myself, but I can change. And then the third list was everything I hate about myself that I can't change. And I didn't realize how small that list actually was. So the list of the things that I loved about myself, I started actually pondering on those and accepting those. The list of things that I hated but I could change, I changed all of them. And then the list of the things that I couldn't change, I just accepted because
Can I ask you? I don't know if this is personal, but can I ask you what was in that list that you hate about yourself that you could change?
that I could change.
Yeah.
My body, that was immediate. At the time, it was my hair, so obviously dyed my hair blonde, and that wasn't the best bet, but I still
Yeah.
changed it. A lot of it was personality. I realized I was, like seeking attention a lot, and I was a little bit boy crazy at the time and things like that. And once I actually sat down and realized that, I started taking actual steps towards it because I mean, at the end of the day, all I want to do is be a wife and a mother. That's something I've always had in my life. And I thought back to myself, would the person that I want me?
Yeah.
And then that's how I kind of reverse engineered that a
Yeah.
little bit.
You don't have kids or anything, right? You're not married.
Not yet. Sometimes.
So,
Fingers crossed.
so where do you think it comes from? Because I feel like with guys, it's more like cutthroat. Like, if somebody's fat, we're gonna make fun of him, and like we shame each other, and that's how we help each other, kind of
Right.
like to get better. But I feel like the approach for women is completely different. So why do you think that is? Do you think that's like it's just like victim mentality? Do you think that's just like where do you think that comes from?
I mean, I've struggled with that my whole life. I think one, it's our parents. I'll unpack that. And two, it's social media, of course. I feel like we're comparing every second of our lives to somebody's highlight reel. So you see yourself without makeup, you see yourself about to go to bed, you see yourself bloated, like you see yourself the whole day. No one's posting that though. So we're just comparing everything that we are to one side of them. And so I think because we do that, we get a lot of pressure to be perfect. Then there's people editing their photos, and it's like a whole hamster wheel of problems. But then I also think from our parents, one thing I realized is their generation learned about health very differently than we do. They learned about restrictive dieting. They learned about cutting out food groups. Carbs are the worst thing ever. So that kind of ingrained mentality was put on us. So I think that that's why we're also in the big struggle too.
Do for example with your community, because you're definitely building that right now, and you have a big following in your platform. Do girls call each other out? I'll give you an example. Like Like as I told you, I think with men, like me and my friends, like we shame each other. That's like a, but in a nice way. Like we make fun of each other, but in a nice way because that's how we help each other. Like if I see one of my friends that he's like getting kind of chubby, I'm like, hey bro, what's going on? Like you're getting kind of fat, I just call it out. But like, do girls do that? Like, is that a thing? Because I always see that. Oh, like if like your friend is like maybe not in the best shape, I feel like girls are like, oh, you look so perfect, you look so cute, and I don't know if that is actually like a it might be like a bad thing in my eyes because like you're
Right.
not actually telling them the truth, but I don't know what's the approach you guys do
I see
because I
what
feel
you're
like we're so
saying.
different in like men and women.
Right. I see what you're saying because like the manly approach of like you need to
Just
fix
be
this, it
direct and
works.
bold, like yeah.
Right. Like it works. It's like, hey, this is your problem now. Now let's fix it.
Yeah.
For women, I would agree with you. Like there's really not a lot of you have to tiptoe around your words. You really do. Because every woman that has something going on with her weight, like some kind of body image issue, every woman that has that is sensitive towards it. So you don't want to say anything. Like I even practice this with my clients. Like if a client comes to me and she's like, "Hey, girl, I gained 5 pounds this week. I'm freaking out. I don't know what to do. I'm super stressed. Whatever." I have to come from an approach of, "Hey, it's okay. Life happens. We'll get back on it next week. Tell me about how your week has gone. Let's unpack it." For men, I used to train men, and for men, it's like, "Why'd you gain 5 pounds? Like, what are you doing wrong?" So I think women are just
Yeah,
more
so it's just the
sensitive to
approach.
those things. Yeah.
And do the people that work with you, do they already come like, hey, Ali, like I have a problem, I'm overweight, like I know there's an issue, help me fix it? Or it's more like, hey, like I don't know, and you kind of like have to like call them out and be like, yeah, no, girl, like you do have an issue. We gotta fix this. That's not okay.
I think for me, they actually come telling me their issues. A lot of times that
Yeah.
I'll get girls in my DMs, hey, I need some help. And then I'll be like, okay, what's up? And then paragraph, just like, here's everything I'm going through. I think right now, it's a time that women are not getting the help that they need. And so they're going to doctors, they're going on social media. And the thing about social media is everybody's posting what they did. It's like people don't have any science background a lot of the time. So they're like, oh,
Yeah.
I ate this food and it helped me lose weight, or I drank this drink and it helped me lose weight. And so everyone's trying everything. So I think when you post from a real raw perspective of here's what I looked like, here's how I look now, and here's what I did, then people will trust you and come with all their paragraph of information.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, there's just so much information out there too. So I think it's so important to see who you're listening to as well.
Right. Yeah,
And,
what you're
and
consuming.
finding the right person that can actually help you.
Exactly. And I
You
think it's
know,
a personality goes into it as well. Like not
yeah.
every coach is for everybody. I realize my approach of being like, more nice and caring isn't great for men. I realize I'm not the best male trainer because I'm like, you got it, like keep going next time, and they're like, you're boring, move it along. I think men do need to get yelled at a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's funny. And you mentioned the confidence part, and that's funny you said because that's something I actually want to talk to you about.
Okay.
I've met people, I've met guys that they were 350 pounds, and I've met them when they lost and they went down to 170. I met people that were broke and they made a lot of money, and I've met people like in the like didn't have a relationship with God and then they did, and all these different things. But something that I've realized is, for example, in their fitness journey with this guy, the same mindset that he had at 350, he was the same guy at 170. The same guy that was broke with $7 in his bank account when he made thousands of dollars, he was the same guy. They still struggle with confidence, and I realized that confidence is not something that you can like achieve and you grab and you're like, oh, now I have the perfect body, now I'm confident.
Right.
I don't think it actually works that way. For me, it's more like a mental state. But I want to take your point of view and like the people that you work with, and I mean, starting with this, like, what's your true definition of being confident?
Might be a controversial answer. I think confidence comes from God. I really don't think it's something that a book
I
can.
agree with that. I agree with that 100%.
Like I
Yeah.
know a lot of the times there's all the self-help books and all the podcasts and all the you can work on yourself so much and everything. You can achieve a level of confidence, of course. Like I am a better speaker now because I put myself in rooms with better speakers, so I get to learn and adapt, obviously. But when you know that there is a creator out there that placed you on this earth at this time with your passions and your ministry, then you have a sense of confidence. It's like he gave me what I need to do to help other people. That is something so special to me. I need to walk in confidence so that I can actually fulfill what he has for me. Like God loves you so much and everything about you. So why wouldn't you be confident in that?
I agree with you. That's something I preach a lot because I see it all the time. It's like, no, you gotta do eyes, but you gotta make money. You gotta be. And I'm like, dude, those are all external stuff. Like we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. We're not physical beings having a physical experience. So
Right.
confidence starts spiritually. There's been
Absolutely.
times in my life that I've been out of shape, that I've been broke. But guess what? I was confident as like if I was dominating, but I didn't have the results because it came from an internal things because I knew who I was on God's view. And I think a lot of people don't have that.
That's what I was going to say. I think it's when you feel out of place and out of place spiritually, like you don't feel spiritually aligned to where you're at. That's where the disconnect happens. I've been Christian my entire life. I was raised in the LDS church, and now I'm Christian and everything, whatever we'll get into. But when I was in Utah, I was so out of place. I was going to church not feeling like I was worthy to be there, and I was like too fat or too this or too that. Like I always just, but I never was connected with God. So why would I? What would I have placed my sense of worth in? Myself? Because if I placed it in myself, every day I'm up and down with my emotions. So there's no firm foundation. But God is that firm foundation that you can have all of your confidence stem from. So now that I'm
Yeah.
following and I actually know God and I know his promises, it's so cool because I've been able to see over the past like year or two how much I show up in my authentic energy, because there's so many times that I'm like, oh, I'm too energetic and I'm too all over the place and I talk too much, but God gave me those gifts. Like that's cool that I have that, you know?
So when did you transition to like, you were struggling with like who you were and like how you saw yourself and everything, and then you kind of like woke up and you're like, dude, like this is what God sees in me. Like I'm that girl. Like regardless if I'm not in the best shape or my bank account doesn't look like this or I don't have all these followers, all this stuff, but like this is who I am and I just cannot deny it. Like what happened? Like I know it was a process for sure, but what events happened in your life?
I think I always knew that I was destined to build something and be a good leader. I've always had that in me, but I wasn't building anything when I was overweight. I was like, maybe I can be a coach, maybe I can be a trainer, but there was the imposter syndrome because I didn't even do it right for myself. So I think once I learned enough and I gained the skills and it clicked for me, then the imposter syndrome went away and I was like, okay, I can now help people and operate in that. I think people try and act like the expert on a lot of things, and I'm definitely a victim of that. People try and act like an expert on a lot of things, and then when they actually go and operate, there's so much lack of confidence because they don't know what they're actually saying. And I think it takes more confidence to let somebody know, hey, I'm not the expert on this, but I'll do some research and figure it out. And so that's what I kind of had to learn. But I think for me, it was the initial weight loss. I started with losing 20 pounds. It was 20 pounds and then 20 pounds later. But when I lost the first 20 pounds, I gained a lot more confidence. But the thing is, like, that's just confidence in my appearance. Like the actual confidence I have as a person didn't start until like 2 years ago when I really, really, really committed to my relationship with God. Like truly, I could
Like
say I'm
what do you do?
confident.
What did you do? Like what happened? Like when you say my relationship with God, like what specific stuff like happened in your life for you to get closer to Christ?
I mean, so I was going to a Christian church here in Vegas, and it was great, but I didn't really understand anything. I was like, oh, this feels like they focus a lot on acquisition, and there's like no retention. Like I just got through the door, and I don't know what I'm doing. And then one of my friends that I met like 2 years ago, he's a pastor at this like really small church, and I went there for over a year, and it was just such an incredible experience because it's small, but they're like yelling at you, like they tell you like exactly what you want to hear. And I realized
Yeah.
a lot of the times in the other Christian churches I went to, it was a lot of talk about how we are not worthy, we're not enough, we're broken, and then God comes to fix us. I didn't really like how that felt because I was like, I know that stuff already, but it felt like I was getting beat down every time I went to church. But going to this one, they were talking about like, who God really is, his promises, and it feels like a Bible study because you actually open up the Bible and you really read the words that he says. And so after that, I just got so curious. I'm like, who is this God guy? Like, who really is he? And
Yeah.
I started diving deep and learning more. And then I met a new friend who started a Bible study. And so I was just started getting around the right people. I had a boyfriend at the time, and I asked him one day, I was like, can we start praying together? Like, maybe just try it out. He was Catholic, so I was like, maybe this can work. We started praying, and then every day I just kind of got more and more invested. And now it's just fun. Like I feel like you renew your mind a lot when you really submit to the Lord. Like before, I used to blame it not blame it, but I used to say it was because of the boyfriend I was dating. But I used to post on social media before meeting him, just like hot girl in the gym kind of videos, like, you know, where you're doing arm day, but you're like showing your back and whatever. Like, it was a lot of that. And that's what got the initial spike in followers. And I was like, a lot of guys would be in the DMs and I would like lead them on. And there was just really no purpose. I was never going to do anything. I was never going to meet
Wait,
up
when
with
was
them.
that?
That was like 2022 era.
That's so funny.
Yeah, that was just kind of like, it was just fun. It wasn't anything important. I wasn't doing anything about it. And then when I started dating him, and then I started going to church around the same time, I realized, oh, that's not at all who I am. I've never been that kind of person. It was just this like state of loneliness and needing attention that I was in. And so after that, I was like, oh, God doesn't want me to do that. God has me destined for more. He wants me to talk to women now. He wants me to lead. He wants me to teach. And so I think once I switched my mind to thinking of spiritual things, then my purpose started coming. And I was like, oh, okay.
You know, it's so funny you say, because I had like the same thing last year.
Really?
And I was like, you know what, dude, screw it. I'm gonna use my platform on like social media, and I'm just gonna be Ben. And I think I'm a pretty funny guy, so I just started posting things that like I would just think just posted, and I started making fun of people, like things like ideologies that I kind of like I was against and didn't believe, and with like just like trans people and all this stuff, and I just started like making fun, and like went millions of views. I had people come after me and stuff, and even though like I do. Even though like everything I said was things I believe in, I know it wasn't right because that's not like that was the natural Ben. And I remember I was at a sacred place and God literally told me, he's like, dude, I need you to change your content. And I'm like, crap. I'm like, because I knew that I was not edifying anybody. You know, I was like just entertaining, and I knew it was just not good.
Right.
You know, and I kind of like realized that I was just better than what I was posting. I just changed everything. And my account grew way more because I was actually adding more value, and it was like a very, it was like a key point in my life, just changing everything. Because like I was literally, I went from making fun of certain people to edifying people and helping them with their relationship with Christ, and it's honestly like everything just skyrocketed from there. Obviously, it was different because you were posting something else, but like
No, that makes
probably
sense.
about yourself. But I was like attacking people, you know.
That's the thing. Like I've been reading Proverbs a lot lately, and they talk about you reap what you sow. Obviously, we've all heard that phrase. But if you're
Yeah.
sowing this seed of negativity or like attention seeking or whatever, that's what you're
I
gonna
was
get.
just seeking attention. It was
Right.
literally just eye views. I was like, how can I get more eye views? And I was like, I gotta create content that people either love it or hate it,
Right.
just to like trigger people and cause a reaction. That's what I was doing.
Exactly. That's what I was doing too. Because for me, it was a lot of just like getting attention, and I realized I got in 2 weeks, my account went from 14,000 followers to 130 in 2 weeks because I posted those kinds of videos, and so that was gaining traction, and I was like, oh wow, it's working. Well, now I'm reaping what I sow, and that's why I have a women's community, because I'm trying so hard to weed those men out that we're following. So now I feel so
Gotcha.
much more authentic in my content.
So
But
your
it was
account even has decreased with the content you changed?
Well, my account decreased because the men are leaving. So
Really?
like more women are coming, more men are leaving. So it has decreased, but I'm feeling blessed for it because I'm like, please
Yeah, but
leave.
like the
Thank you.
right people are gonna stay.
Right. Yeah. I'm targeting women now, so more women are coming in and more men are leaving. So my account's been stable for like a year, around the same followers for like a year. But it makes sense because if men leave and women come in, then it's the same number, you know.
You know, and that's actually one of the things that got my attention. I'm like, I want to talk to Alec, is like you've been posting a lot of just quality content
Thank you.
and content that edifies people, that inspires people, and I think a lot of women, just keeping it real, all they want is just attention from guys. You know, like I go to social media and there's literally porn everywhere with like only. I'm amazed of the amount of OnlyFans girls that they're out there. Like I'm amazed. Like for example, like I went to Facebook. I don't know like why they posted this thing with like this news article, and it said like this girl that had like an OnlyFans account and she broke the record for sleeping with 1,000 men in less than 20. I'm like, what the heck is that? Like back in the day, women's purity and like their beauty and like all these good things was being promoted. Now it's like the completely other side, which is just sexual stuff, nudity, sex and porn. And I mean, all these stuff that I'm like,
Right.
it's killing people's mind, especially
Right.
men, because men are You know, they fall a lot of them. They fall a lot of lust, and that's something I
Yeah.
talk a lot of, like controlling your passions. But it's killing society.
Exactly. No, I'm glad you said this because I just recently started digging into this more. If you want to preach about anything, read the book of Proverbs and like preach that on your Instagram because that's exactly what you're talking about. So I started doing a proverb a day for January, and most of it, like the majority of Proverbs, is talking about like women and how there's wisdom, women like basically wisdom is personified as a woman in the Bible. It talks about like she when it talks about wisdom. So there's Lady Wisdom and Lady Folly. And men are the head of the house. Just this is an analogy my friend gave me. Men are the head of the house, women are the neck. So if you're gonna bring a man to folly, you're gonna turn his head one direction. If you're gonna be a wise woman, you'll turn his head the other direction. So women, the way that we present and the way that we're able to just be as a girl, like if I'm super, promiscuous and leading a man astray, I will lead him astray. But if I am strong in who I am and I'm feminine and bringing that energy, then I'm going to lead him towards wisdom. And so women get to decide where men are going to lead because, like you said, men can fall into lust so easy. But people think that it's just the men and the man's decision. But it is up to a woman too, like what direction you will lead a man.
The girls have no idea how much power they have over men. Like you have no idea. Like a man would conquer the world for you or like burn the world for you. Like that's literally it's two extremes. Like you can like it's just crazy how much power like women have over men, and sometimes I don't think a lot of women know.
Probably not. I feel like they probably don't know. I mean, I'm even trying to realize, but I think people probably don't know because the way that a society is there's so much of that negative, promiscuous kind of energy that women think that all men are a certain way. They're like, all men are players, all men are cheaters, all men are bad. Well, men are being led astray. And I'm not trying to blame women necessarily, but in a general sense, like men are being led towards sin. No one's stopping them. Like no one's here to correct them. And I realized like if I continue to present in a certain way, if I continue to be like sharing wisdom and be helpful and guide somebody towards the Lord, then there would be no reason for him to like look at me in a negative light, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's up to a woman to change the way a man perceives her, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I had a, it's funny because like last year, I just to keep it on like real with you, I only went out with like girls that I was like, oh, she's so hot, and we went out and stuff and everything, and I always got bored because it got to the point I'm like, dude, I'm not connected, like I'm not even like friends with this person, whatever, and it was just like a physical thing, and I changed like my whole approach, and I was talking to he's like my big brother. And a couple months ago, I was like, dude, what do you think of this girl? And I admire this dude to death. He has a beautiful family. He's going to be a dad now. He's extremely wealthy, super successful. And his marriage is, because he's from the Middle East, he's very like, I'm the role of the guy and the role of the woman. And they're very like, this is what I do, this is what you do, but we're a team. But we do have different roles. And you have responsibilities and I have responsibilities. So I showed him this girl on Instagram, and he's like, first thing he told me, he's like, Ben, that girl's not modest at all. Like, would you want that like a wife of your kids or what? And I looked at him like, crowd, you're right, bro. Like, you're right. And like all those little things now, like it affected me so much that I even look at stuff like that. Like when I go to the gym, I went with this kid yesterday. We're talking, and we're at Advasa here in Orem, and I told him like, look, dude, look at all these like they're very like pretty women in here, a lot of girls, but like, do you want that as like your wife, the mother of your kids, like your helpmeet? And don't get me wrong, maybe like the way the clothes you wear is not everything, 100%, but it's a big indicator of who you are as well, like how modest you are, and how you
Right. I think
present yourself.
there's like a good line, I feel like, because for me, like I'll go to the gym in like leggings and a sports bra because it's hot and I feel like maybe my abs look nice today, whatever. But what I was wearing before, coming to Christ and everything is like the ones that would be like scrunched into your booty.
You can
And
literally see like the whole like girls'
yeah.
cheeks and like their tits and everything. It's insane.
And that's the thing, like now that I've changed my perception of myself, I don't want to dress that way. It's not because anything specific. I just don't want to because I don't want the eyes on me. I don't want a man to look at me in that way. And I think that's the thing. I had to be real with myself. When I was craving that kind of male attention, I would be looking around the gym all day because I'm wearing those kind of pants. I'm like, who's looking at me? I was in that kind of energy. But now I'm like, do not look at me at the gym. I'm doing what I'm doing. Like if I'm wearing a sports bra, like it's because I feel nice, but I'm not trying to like pull my pants into anything. You know what I mean? Like it's a different mindset, and because of that, I literally sold all of those shorts because I was like, I don't want anyone seeing anything.
You know, what you just said of stop looking for validation and attention, I truly believe that's one of the biggest difference, sorry, from girls and women. And I always talk about this stuff that there's a lot of boys, but not a lot of men. There's a lot
Right.
of girls out there, but not a lot of women. So I think one of them is the attention. Like stop looking for attention. That's when you become a woman. But what do
Right.
you think? What else do you think? What has to happen in a girl's life to go from being a girl to becoming an actual woman with these values, this mindset, and this maturity? What do you think it has to happen for somebody to go from girl to like an actual woman?
Well, I think other than turning to God, that's the most important thing. But I think realizing how important femininity is, that's something I never really realized. For years, I was like hustling with my work and hustling with my job and trying to, make the most money and trying to be the best at everything that I did. And I think when I
Yeah.
was operating, you can still do that, but when I was operating in that energy, like I have to make money, I have to do this stuff, like when that was the energy that I was giving, I wasn't really attracting that good of men because every man that I was with or, even just hanging out with was like intimidated by me. I didn't like being in that energy. I was like, I'm just a girl. What do you mean? Like, can't we have a conversation? But they were always just so intimidated by what I was doing. And then I wasn't able to understand what it was like to be feminine. And so then, being in a relationship, I owe a lot to my ex. He's an amazing guy. I have nothing wrong to say about him. But I owe him a lot because he was able to put me in my feminine energy. I think it takes a strong man to put a woman in her feminine, because if a man is taking care of things, if he's got the finances taken care of, if he's got the house taken care of, like if he's got like, a man doesn't have to make the money, but I'm just saying in a traditional sense, like if a man has stability in some sense, even emotional stability, like if he's taken care of one thing, then I feel safe enough to be creative and be loving and be nurturing and be feminine, because God made women that way. We are supposed to be nurturing. And I just feel like I was trying to be nurturing to everybody, but it wasn't really coming out of a true energy of being like a woman, if that makes sense. Like I was nurturing because I felt like I'm doing all this stuff in my masculine. Maybe I should pull some feminine in it. But now I'm like, I will serve everybody from a nurturing heart. And I was like, my business is my ministry. It's not my business. It's not my work. It's not my money. It's my
It's your
ministry.
purpose.
It's my
It's your
purpose. And I think
mission. Let's go. Yeah.
that's the thing. Like when women realize like you have a purpose on this earth, and I think being feminine is so important to like drive that purpose, because something that I'm doing with my business is I'm helping women with hormone issues and health issues and things that are really sensitive. It takes somebody like me to do those kinds of things. So God had to make me feminine and loving and nurturing so that I can, not yell at them.
Okay, but Ale, you're talking about feminine, which I totally agree with you. But I think that term is being used in a way that somebody who's feminine right now, they hate men and screw men and bust girls and all this BS, and I'm gonna die by myself and independent and all these BS that, to be honest, I've talked to so many women that are like with that mindset, and I'm pretty sure you can relate.
Yeah.
That they're like boss girls, boss babes, and all this stuff. And every time I've had the opportunity to talk with them one on one, and I ask them, "What is it that you truly want?" And they always tell me the same thing. I want to be provided. I want to be protected. I want to be guided. I want to be like, they want this stuff, but I don't know. Like, I think it comes to, in my opinion, to an insecurity thing that they put all these walls and this mask of like, I'm strong and boss and I don't even hate men, all this stuff.
Right.
But what's your definition of like femininity? Like the actual definition? Because
Yeah.
right now I think a lot of it is like equal with men and screw men and hate men and
Yeah.
all men suck and everything.
I think that's a trauma response answer. I've definitely
Yeah.
had that before. I've definitely had that
Yeah.
where like one man will wrong you and you're like, oh my gosh, men are the worst. I can do everything myself. I think the switch didn't happen for me until my ex told me, if an intruder walks into our house, who's going to get him? And I said, not me. And he said, and that's when I sat back and I was like, okay, that's not my job. Because feminists, they feel like they can do everything. They're like, I'm going to protect the house. I'm going to provide. I can do everything. But then it's like, okay, so what happens when you get robbed? What are you going to do? And I think that's when I was like, I have to put that pride aside and realize like, I do need a man to do manly things. Men need women just as much as women need men. Like I'll
I
say that.
agree. I
I
agree 100%.
love being I think
Yeah.
women are a provider in a lot of ways they don't think that they can be. And I think because femininity has been skewed so much, I think women think that they're not that powerful. But if you have a strong man, like a strong, independent entrepreneur, business owner, whatever, like a strong man, he is 24/7 in his masculine energy. He's working, he's doing all this stuff. He needs a woman to just be like a listening place or like a place of peace, just to sit there. Like feminine energy is so important for a man. Even like people think it's always like the cooking and cleaning, whatever. But in my opinion, like I cannot wait to.
It's the nourishing part.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I
Yeah.
can't wait to like nurture. And like if that means like cooking because my man worked so hard from the life that he provided me and I can cook him a little dinner, I'm going to do that because that's feminine energy and men need that. But like we need to be provided for because nobody wants to operate in fight or flight all the time. Men can handle it. Women, I feel like I just don't see the point. I think it's so fun to be in your feminine energy, in your creative energy, in your loving energy. I think that's fun. I don't think it's fun to think that I'm better than men, or I don't think men are better than women. I don't think women are better than men. I think
We're
God
just different. We're just
different.
different.
It says in the
Yeah.
Bible, God made woman as the assistant, and a lot of people can see that as assistant means lesser, but the work won't get done without an assistant. You need the assistant. So I don't think it's like a power thing, you know? Everyone's got
Yeah,
their
I think we're just different, and it's like a team. I mean, it's like soccer. Like you have the goalie, you have the forward guys, you have the defense. Everybody has different roles, but we're a team together.
right.
And I think a lot of guys, and I don't know. I think it's just the United States that's kind of weird. Probably here, I don't know, but I think like other. I always talk with my friend about this stuff because I told you he's from the Middle East, and
Right.
he's like, the girl does this, I do this, and that's your role. This is my role. Like I make the money, and like so you don't have to take care of anything, but you're gonna take care of the kids and nourish and all the stuff in the house and everything. But they're very, and she's like super cool with it. And I freaking love it because like I think it's so hard to find stuff like that right now.
Right. I think it
So
depends. I think there can be a good mix. Like in my family, my dad provides financially, but my mom also works, but she works on her passion. She has like 10 different passion projects. She's like
oh,
an
100%.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
she happens to make money, but she doesn't need to. I think that's my ideal, where, you know, my husband makes the money to be stable. I happen to make money off of what I do, but I don't have to because it's ministry. I'm doing my purpose. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I don't think it has to be like forced into a role, but it's that nurturing side. Like I would love to, you know, help you with
It's
this.
like
Or,
you can do it, but you don't have to. But you can do it.
right.
Yeah, no,
And I think
I agree with you.
that's the Middle Eastern differences because I just came back from Dubai. We have our family there, and you'll see a lot of that dynamic where it's like the men are very masculine. They're very much there are things that they are doing, and then the women they have to do certain things. Like you see that a lot, which is fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just not how we operate in America. But I think people have taken it so far to the extreme. I think traditional values are beautiful, and they've taken it so far to the extreme in America where it's like if you have a household where the woman doesn't work, people kind of look down on it. But being a mother and being a wife is a hard job. Let me tell you this actually. When I went to Dubai, I realized the importance of my mom. So a lot of people there have maids.
Where your
It's very-
parents are there, do they live there?
No. My parents live here in Vegas, but my dad's whole side of the family moved over there. So I went to
Oh,
go
yeah,
visit
gotcha.
his sister.
Okay.
So when I was there, I realized everybody has a maid. The maid that my cousin has she's Christian, she's so beautiful, so amazing, and she cooks for the kids, she cleans up after them, she helps them shower, she cleans the house. She does everything around the house so that my cousin can be this fun mom that takes them to school and takes them to soccer practice and does all the fun things. And I sat back and realized my mom is so incredible to have done all of that. She did the cooking, the cleaning, the nurturing, and putting us in sports and taking us to school and like teaching us. It's people, they think that being a mom has to be something bad. Like, oh, you were kicked to the curb. Like you have to go, you know, be at home and stay at home. But it's like stay at home mom is hard. When I sat there and I saw all that this lady was doing for somebody else's kids, I called my mom immediately. I was like, you're amazing. I can't believe
It's
you
a
did
tough
everything.
job. Like, like I've been thinking about this a lot the past couple of months because I've seen it. And like as a guy, you go to work and you're with your boys. You know, it's fun. You're competing. You're building stuff that you like. If you're an entrepreneur, you own your own business, whatever. I don't know. You're making money, and yeah, it's stressful. But like men are more like equipped to handle stress and pressure and everything.
Right.
But the woman, if they have kids, like, yeah, you don't have a lot of time to like hang out by yourself with your friends. You're talking to like 1-year-old, 2-year-olds, and 3-year-olds, and you gotta like entertain them all day,
Right.
all day.
Right.
And he's like, they're waking up at night, they're doing this stuff, and I've seen it with my eyes, and I'm like, I don't, I'm cool. Like, I don't want to. That's like a lot. It's like a full-time job, but it's so rewarding. Like, I love kids so much, and I've seen the wives of my siblings, the wives of my friends and stuff, and it's a tough thing that men, we just don't have it. We don't have that nourishing part of it. Women have it for sure.
Right. I think it's beautiful to have both, of course. That's why God made us the way that we are, because
Yeah.
you need the man for the stability. And like in my family, my dad's the fun one. Like we need our dad because we know that he's going to be fun. He's going to take us to do fun things. And like every time you're around him, it's lighthearted and an exciting time.
Yeah.
When we're around our mom, we know that we're going to learn a lot. We know she's going to guide us. And they always say honor your mother and father in the Bible, because God gives them instruction to give us, assuming
Yeah.
that it's, a God-led household. They have, like, our parents are older than us. They have the wisdom. We don't have wisdom when we're kids. We don't know anything. And so following our mother and father, submitting to them, they're submitted to the Lord, then we get to learn. It's the same thing about a relationship. Like, I think being submitted to a man, we can talk about that too. I think people think of the submission thing as such a hard thing. They think submission means subordinate. They think you have to be, if you are submitting to a man, you have to be like a slave to him. That's
I
not
think
at
it
all.
comes down to trust. Like, it's very like a synonymous of trust.
I think it also depends on who the man is, because if I am married to somebody who's not submitted to God, there would be no reason for me to submit to him, because I cannot trust. Trust makes sense. I cannot trust who these steps are coming from. Like if
Him
my
to
man,
make the decisions and to lead you and all this stuff. Yeah.
right, I would need my man to be asking God for discernment in all of his decisions, because if he's like, "Hey, let's move to New York," I'm gonna be like, "Why?" And then if he tells me he prayed about it, he gets this feeling, God told him, all right, let's go. But if he's like, I don't know, I just feel like it, how am I supposed to trust that? And so people always think there's got to be this power imbalance of like men always get the final say or whatever, but it depends on the man that you choose. Depends on what he's doing in his personal life.
Well, it's funny you say that, because like my point of view is that everything that's wrong with society, I blame men for it. Because it's the role of the men to lead and protect and provide. If you have weak men, you have a failed society. If you have strong men, you have a strong society.
Right.
And I always blame men. Like, family goes down or something, man's fault. Why? Because that's his role, to provide and to protect and to lead. So if he's not leading, well, that's his responsibility. And I think a lot of women as well, they come with this like, they step up and their boss energy and all this stuff, because a lot of men, they don't have the balls or the pants to like be the leader,
Right.
to be honest.
That's
And
very true.
I think that's a huge. Wait, say that again.
I said that's true. If there's a lot of weak men, then women
Yeah.
might have to step up to the plate.
And now I understand that men have a lot of pressure. I always tell people, I'm like, if you're born a girl, like they love you since day one. You're a dude, you're gonna be loved as according to your value and whatever you can provide. And even though it sounds sad, that's just the way it is, and that's completely okay. There's a balance of like, the value you can bring and like love, like unconditional love. But I think a lot can be fixed in society if we have strong men that get closer to God.
Right. What's your biggest advice when it comes to a man wanting to be closer to God? What do you tell them?
It's funny. I always tell guys because everybody here wants to get married like now. And I'm like, dude,
Sure, I do.
if you're not confident, fulfilled, and happy by yourself, do not get into a relationship. Before you jump into anything, you must know who you are as a spiritual being, and you must know what's your purpose. If you don't know those things, you don't have the right to be with anybody. You have to be so aligned by yourself, and then you start taking more responsibility with people, marriage, relations, all these different things. But you must be equipped and have the resources and the tool in the relationship with God first by yourself. That's what I always tell people. And because if you don't know where you're going to go with your life, if you don't know who you are, what's your vision for your life, how the heck are you going to lead someone? And don't get me wrong, like I think a lot of people get lucky when they get married young and all this stuff, and they somehow figure it out. But I'm very extremist in that regard, because I think it's too risky, and I've seen it way too many times that they just fail.
we don't know what goes on in their relationship too. Like people have different ideals for relationships. So, you're saying like men need to be built up first to be with a woman and be able to lead
I mean,
her.
I'm not saying built up first, but you need to have a strong foundation, and it
Right.
doesn't come down to like you gotta have a house and you gotta make money. No, but you gotta know where you're going. You gotta be
Exactly.
work. You gotta be strong physically. You gotta have a great relationship with God. You gotta
Right.
like know what you want to do with career wise and money wise and all these different things. Like you gotta know that stuff,
And that's the
because
thing,
then
God puts
it gets
people in
harder.
your right. God puts people in your life at the time that you're ready for those people. Years ago, if I were to try and meet the person that I would want today, he wouldn't even come my way because there would be we wouldn't even align. I don't think there would be a time that that would even happen because I was not a greater version of myself. So it's like the man that I want right now, all of his everything that he is, I have to continually become the person that he would want. So if you're telling men like, you guys have to be living in your purpose, you have to be God-fearing people, that people want to rush it, but when you start operating that way, you're going to start meeting those kinds of women that love and respect that. A lot of the
You know,
women,
that's always funny.
what?
I don't think I ever said this, but in my Instagram, I don't know for some reason, and like the oldest girl that I've dated, she was like 32, but and that's like 7 years older than me. But every like person, like girl that come to my DMs or like Instagram, they're all in their 30s, and I have no idea why. But I think it's because I give off that vibe of like, man, building stuff, preaching, purpose, and everything. And all these older women, they think that I'm like 35 or something like that. I'm like, no, dude, I'm 25. And it's very funny because I was talking with this dude the other day, and he's like, wait, how old are you? And I'm like, how old do you think I am? He's like 30 to 40. I'm like, okay, yeah,
40.
but be specific. He's like 35. I'm like, nah, dude, I'm 25. What are you talking about? So
Funny.
anyway, I think it's good because then you start attracting women, not girls, but women, and that's what a guy actually needs. I mean, a man. Not if you're a boy, you're gonna attract girls, but if you're a man, you're gonna attract women.
Right.
And let me ask you this question: what's a because I think you have a lot of foundation, a solid foundation. You're very mature, and I consider you like the energy that you give. You're not like a girl. You're like a woman. Like we can have a serious, mature conversation. I appreciate that a lot.
Thank you.
So coming from you, what's hard in our society right now finding like an actual man? Like in your experience, is it tough? Are there a lot of guys out there like that, or not really? A lot of boys that you just kind of like gotta push and like put pressure on them and whatnot. What's been
That's
your experience?
that's
Like
a
honestly, not like ideal, but your experience.
No, that's a really difficult topic because I feel like there's just so many people in this world that having an opinion that's like closed-minded, like, oh, every man is like this, I feel like that will not do you any good.
Fully.
Um, yeah, it's hard. And so I really do think it still comes back to the women though, because right now I'm in a position where I know that wherever I go, if I meet somebody, I have the discernment to be like, yeah, you might be hot, but I don't even want to talk to you because I heard you talk about this, or I don't, your personality is like this or whatever. Like I already know, okay, it's not just a looks thing. Like it used to be like, oh, I'd go for whoever was attractive. And that's why I used to think that all men were bad, because everybody that I found that was attractive that I would talk to didn't have the substance or wasn't aligned with me or whatever case. And so now I think I can say that there's a lot of men out there only because I've been able to be really choosy with the men and be able to understand what good qualities in men are. And
Okay.
seeing a lot of my friends are like that too. I think it's a super personal thing, but a lot of my friends are super high quality men and, high value men, but I don't think it's common. I think that it is rare, but I don't think it's not able to be found.
Okay, but like realistic, because I always tell people, I'm like, when people ask me, I'm like, dude, it's tough. Like a lot of women, like there's a lot of girls, and honestly, you like less than 10% of the girls you actually find are like quality women. But even though it's hard and it takes time, it's so freaking worth it.
Right.
So
So that's what
but
I'm
just
saying.
keeping it real, like there's not many of them, but that's
No, no,
okay.
it is rare. Like it is hard to find, but you have to be the person before you even can think about that.
I
Like before
agree.
you can even think if it's like hard or whatever.
I
Like
agree.
if you're not that person that would even attract that person, then you don't even have to ask that question. But I agree with you. I think I think it's hard to find that person and sustain it because that's why you have to operate in your feminine energy, because all of these like high value masculine men, I mean, I can ask you, probably want a more feminine woman, I would assume.
Oh, all the guys that I know, all my friends are older than me,
Right.
and I have like one that is my age, like one actual friend that's my age. Now that I think about it, everybody else is older than me, and I look at their relationship, and it's exactly like that. He's
Right.
very masculine, and the woman is very feminine.
Right.
But they're a team, and they counsel together, and like it works perfect.
Right. So you got to heal that part of yourself, because I feel like the idea that like all men are bad also go along with the idea that like all women are amazing and we should all empower each other and be masculine. I feel like they kind of go hand in hand. So once you heal that and become the feminine version of yourself, you're going to start seeing, okay, yes, it's still rare, but there are a lot of good men out there. You just have to be in the right places.
You mentioned high value. Let's talk about these two things. You mentioned high value woman and high value men. What does it mean, or like look like specifically a high value man for you?
It's a good question. I think when a man is confident, I would consider that high value. When they're building towards something with purpose, you don't have to be an entrepreneur to be high value, but when you're building something that there's purpose in, being able to talk to women and be emotionally intelligent, you need to be IQ and EQ are both just as important as each other, and healed from past trauma. I think there's a lot of times that, men will come into relationships with previous trauma, and that's not the best way to operate. But I think when you can be a full circle kind of person where you're healed, you've submitted to God, and you don't have to be submitted to God to be high value in a general sense, but in my opinion, it's very helpful. But I think being a very confident version of yourself, knowing your faults, being able to put your pride aside and realize like you need God, you need help, I think that's super high value. You don't have to be a
Yeah.
high earner to be high value.
What about
That's a
women?
lot of people think. Women, I think it's the modesty and the respect. It doesn't, like, self-respect. It doesn't have to be the clothes that you wear necessarily, but there's a lot more to modesty in general. Like, you're not, cussing all the time. You're not sleeping around with a bunch of guys. You're not going to the club 24/7 and like getting drunk. Like, they're like just biblical principles can make you high value. Just going off of what a traditional woman should be and being that perfect assistant and helper and operating in that. Like the difference between woman and a girl, I think being that woman is probably what I would consider high value.
That's a good definition. I have another question for you. I have a lot of questions for you. I have like a list of questions. Something you mentioned, and this is something that I think every person must go through. A couple of years ago, like this one girl I was full in love with, and she ended up like, I had a gut feeling. God told me break up with her. I broke up with her.
Wow.
Then 2 months later, she got engaged, and I realized she was pregnant, and with this other dude. And like the day that I felt I needed to break up with her, that's the day she met the other guy and everything. So it was like kind of messed up. And I took a break, and I asked myself, okay, I've been screwed over so many times. What do all these girls have in common? And you know what was my conclusion? Me. That's what they have in common. And I started realizing, because I'm a true believer in you attract a lot of stuff in your life, and everything in your life is your responsibility, the good and the bad. And you attract it by the things you focus on, and things about your past and your beliefs and everything. So I started thinking, okay, if I attracted these experiences, what was I thinking when I was in these relationships? And I realized that a lot of stuff that I was thinking, it was like, oh, they don't love me, they're gonna cheat on me, they're gonna leave me, and a lot of it came from trauma. Like since I was a kid, when my parents got divorced, things that happened with my dad, and things that I never realized that would actually affect me. So I started doing a lot of internal work and recognizing, okay, I have all these demons and things that I want to fix, because I don't want to pass these to anybody. So I went on like this battle with myself for like a year and a half. And I'm very confident in my weaknesses. I know exactly what I suck and things I need to work on, and things that I'm great at in my strengths. Right. So what does that look like for your life? Because I'm pretty sure you've done a lot of stuff like that. Internal work and recognizing, you know what? I got to change this stuff. This may come from a relationship I had 5 years ago, or maybe this comes from my childhood or something like that. What stuff, internal work to heal and to break those cycles that have been passed on from relationships, friendships, or even family, have you done?
That's a really good question. I feel like internal work is something that I'm trying to focus on this year. I had a really great upbringing. My family's amazing, and I'm
That's
very
good.
blessed in that scenario. This last relationship was my really first one, so I'm not super jaded, which I'm very blessed to have. But I
Oh
obviously
wait,
everybody
you only have
knows
one relationship?
one real one that was more than
Oh,
like
okay.
6 months. Yeah. But yeah,
Okay. That makes-
yeah. So I'm just now learning these kinds of
yeah.
things. But that relationship was extremely healthy. We never argued. It was a beautiful relationship. And I think it's because of the way that I chose to be in the relationship. I chose not to let anything slide that I didn't want to be there. I chose to hold myself to a high regard and keep my standards high. And so I think because of that, I was able to operate in it pretty well. But I think internal work comes from the alone time you spend with yourself, like really
Mm.
sitting down every morning. So I've been waking up at 5 a.m. for the past few months and doing a whole morning routine. We can talk about that if you want to. But the whole morning routine is so intentional. And because of that, I think I'm able to like set myself out right in the morning and be with myself and like journal about my strengths and my weaknesses and what I want to improve on. But I think you have to get clear on what you want out of your life. If you're somebody, if we're talking relationships and you want to be with a certain guy, you really have to reflect and ask if that guy would want you. Like that, I keep saying that, but it's so important. Like 2 years ago, the perfect idea of this guy that I wanted and everything, I would never have attracted him. There would be no point, like physically, maybe he'd be like, oh, like you're cute, whatever. I would never have kept him. Never. And so now I have to do all the work to get to that. So if, for example, if I want a guy who's super trustworthy, I have to be trustworthy.
Okay, but
I
that's what
can't.
I'm talking about, Ali. And sorry to interrupt you, but I think a lot of we're just talking about women. Same thing with guys, but a lot of women they're just not aware of that. I meet a lot of girls that they have so much walls and so many things, and they don't even know. And I'm like, dude, I don't even want to deal with that stuff. Like, work on those things, and then like start like going out. Like, what happened in your life that you were like, oh crap, I gotta fix this stuff. Like, this is not okay. Like,
You really
okay,
want
this
to
guy
know?
wouldn't date me. Like, how did that happen? What was the
You really want to
process?
know
Like,
the story?
yeah, I
There's
want to like we want to share the nuggets to the people.
Okay, I didn't think I was going to share this on a podcast today, but I'll tell you. So, there was a guy that they say hooking up, but in Alessia terms, it really doesn't mean that much. But there was a guy that I was hanging out with for like six
Yeah.
months, right? It was a whole thing. I felt like he was kind of using me, so I kind of, stopped that. That was in 2022, I believe. And then, so we stopped talking. A few months later, I was on a dating app and I met with this guy on the dating app. Gorgeous, tall, light skinned man, blue eyes, like Christian guy, like kind of like everything I wrote on my paper, right? I was like, wow, okay, this perfect guy. And he's talking to me, he's so intentional. I thought this man was awesome, right? A few days later, he texted me and he was like, hey, I'm going on a cruise, so if my energy is not super high, it's because the connection's not great out there. And I was like,
Yeah.
cool, love that. Thanks for being clear about it. He goes on this cruise, right? And then I see the other guy post on his Instagram a picture of him in the Dominican Republic, and I was like, oh, cool, like he's on vacation, right? They met
Wait,
on the
wait, wait.
same cruise.
An- Another guy? Oh, the same guy that you were for 6. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, they met on the same cruise. One, by the way, I didn't even mention. The newer guy, he lived in North Carolina. The other guy lived in Vegas. So they shouldn't have known each other.
Oh,
But
but
they
they
were,
started hanging out in the cruise.
so it turns out they work for the same company. And it's a really big company, one of those like door-to-door sales, the really big ones. So they met, and one of them is like a higher up or whatever, and the other guy was newer. And so I didn't think that they would have met. I was like, oh, like I started realizing they were on the same cruise, but I was like, I don't think it's a big deal because I haven't talked to this guy in so long. Then I go to check, so the guy he told me he'd FaceTime me on Sunday, and I was like, cool, like I'm excited for this FaceTime, right? And a few days go by and he's not responding to me. We never had this FaceTime, and I was just kind of confused. I went to go check his Instagram, saw that they started following each other, and their only mutual follower is me. So I don't want to know how that conversation went down, but basically after that, I was mad because I was like, oh my gosh, she stopped talking to me. So I go and FaceTime a friend, and I was like, girl, you won't believe what just happened. I told her the whole story, and she was not laughing. She just stood there and she was like, what are you doing? And I was like, what do you mean? What am I doing? I'm freaking out. And she's like, you need to set up your phone, like put your camera up and speak to yourself and like actually figure out what you're doing. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's stupid, whatever. So I did it. And I sat down for it was 15 minutes. I just put up my phone and I was talking to my camera and I was like, you're hurting people. You have hundreds of dudes in your DMs that you will never meet up with that actually have feelings and are real people. You're posting a certain way, you're acting a certain way. You don't even like this guy. Like, I was just talking to myself and giving myself like the real truth. And after I did that, I completely stopped operating that way because I realized like men have feelings, they have emotions. I didn't think that at the time. I was like, men are just men. Like, it's not, they'll get over it, whatever. What if this guy really liked me? Like, he definitely could have, like, I could have totally broken his heart with that, but I never thought that. So I think for me, inner work came from just speaking to myself and being like, girl, you know this is wrong, so let's figure out what we're doing.
Oh, so what happened with the dude? Did you guys like it?
We just never talked again.
Really?
Yeah, but I didn't. He wasn't responsive for a while, which is why I had this kind of feeling. But then I just unfollowed him and everything because I didn't want to make anything messy.
You know, I think that's so important because I have found myself in a similar way that, like, yeah, especially last year. Last year is the year that I made the most mistakes, and I broke a lot of my own standards and things I believe in, to be completely honest. But I changed a lot, and like, I'm not ashamed of it because it made me who I am today. But I would say, yeah, I want to get married and I want to do this and I want to have family and kids and stuff like that. But just to be honest, I had like 4 girls that I could like hit out and I was like hanging out with, and like I really didn't care, and it was just fun. And but I know girls are more emotional, so they were wanting to like do like something long term. But I just like again, I'm a loving guy, but I can also detach pretty quick, and that was like an issue. So I would detach, and I was like, you know what? I talked to someone, and he's like, dude, like you're not matching your fruits and your decisions with what you're saying. And I'm like, you're right. So I cut everybody off, and I'm like, I'm gonna make a completely 180 and change his stuff because it's an issue. Like you find yourself a lot of the times doing stuff like that, you know. And I think a lot of guys do that. I think a lot of women do that too, and that's another part of maturing in life and becoming a girl to a woman and a boy to a man. Is stop seeking attention and being more isolated and more picky and being more serious, but also matching it with your actions and not just whatever you say.
Absolutely.
But
that's a great summary of it. I feel like, no, that's so good because I think when you are able to be intentional with yourself and you're able to actually realize the cool things about you, like God blessed us all so individually. Like I might think, oh, like this person has this and this and this, but they don't have something that I have. Like people will ask me like, how do you do so many things? Or, oh my gosh, I wish I could sing. I wish I could do this. But then I'm like, you wish this? I wish I could do what you're doing, or I wish I could have what you're having. Or someone might look at me and be like, oh, like, I wish I had this physical quality that you have. Like, I wish I had your eyebrows or something. And then I could be like, oh my gosh, like your hair is so pretty. Like, and you never know what like people are insecure about. And there's always good in every person. Yeah. And God has blessed every single person in the universe with a gift. At least one. Everybody has a gift. Some people are better at showing it than others, but everybody has one. And I was actually just writing this down. I feel like my life's purpose and mission, aside from helping women and all the hormone weight loss stuff, aside from all that, my life's purpose is to help people find their passion and their purpose from God, because I would hate for somebody to be 80 years old in a rocking chair looking back at their life and realize that they never figured out what their passion was.
I think that's like so important. I agree with that 100%, and that's something I try to do as well. And I think it's so important. I think a lot of people are lost in life because they have no purpose or mission in what they want to do, and there's a specific reason why we're here. You know, like we could have been born 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago, but there's a reason why God waited thousands of years for us to be here right now.
Right.
You know,
and especially with all the technology. We have so much technology. Social media is booming. Like we could have been born 50 years ago. We were born right now into this generation. We might as well use the resources we were given.
So when did you find your purpose?
I feel like I've always kind of like tried different gifts that I had. Like, okay, I like singing, I'm gonna try it. Okay, I love teaching, I'm gonna try it. So I think because I've been a curious person, I've kind of always walked in some kind of purpose. But I think I lost 20 pounds and became a coach. And then when I lost 20 pounds, it was last year. So it wasn't even that long ago. But when I finally had like lost all the weight and everything and realized that I can build something. I used to actually, in business, always rely on other people. I had a lot of mentors, a lot of coaches, paid thousands of dollars for coaching programs. I was in a lot of things trying to get mentorship and thinking that there was more I needed to learn from people. Even in coaching, I was an assistant coach. And then after I was an assistant coach, I didn't think I could do it alone. So I was trying to hire or have other coaches hire me. I was looking for everything except for just betting on myself. And then when I finally was like, hey, just try it. Like, see if you fail at it. What's the big deal? Like, you don't have that big of a platform anyways. Like, just try to see if you can do this thing yourself. And then that's when I had met my ex, who's really good at technology, who's really good at business, things like that. So I got to learn a lot of fundamentals from that. And now I'm like, oh, I feel like I didn't need to rely on anybody else. But I think that switch was super important for me. Just realizing I can do it myself. And then after that, I was able to walk into my purpose.
Why do you do what you do? Why do you help women? Why do you help women like in their confidence and spiritual stuff and their fitness? Why do you do that? What drives you to do that?
My vision is I want to be the person that my younger self would have needed. So there's a girl that I wish I had in my life to mentor me and coach me and just tell me the right things, and I never had that. So I want to be that for other people.
You know, I always tell people that you can find your purpose in your struggle. In the things that make you feel ashamed, that make you feel that you're disqualified and stuff. And I'm like, dude, that's the thing you got to share the most. Your mess. There's a reason why the word mess is inside the word message. Because you can relate with it. Like, your mess is your message. Like, for me, it was the same thing. Like, I almost ended my life in 2017. I've struggled. Like, stuff with my dad. Like, I've been alone most of my life. I moved to a different country. I've always felt like I've been like the black sheep. I can't really, and all these different things. And when I started talking about it, started using it, I'm like, crap, I can help a lot of people because I can relate. I know exactly how to get out of there. I know exactly how to go from the soft, weak, soft kid, suicidal, to a strong guy that is building a lot of things and mentally tough and disciplined. I know exactly how to do it because I've done it to myself.
Right.
And I think a lot of people don't use that, and especially women. I think a lot of women, they have a lot of experiences and gifts and talents and skills that God has blessed them with, but they're not using it.
Right.
They're not using it, and they're robbing the gift that God gave them that they need to share with the world. You know?
Right. It's
So,
service.
yeah.
I think you can use
Yeah.
what you went through to serve others. I have clients that, so I had one client, love her to death, amazing woman, but she has the worst chronic inflammation and chronic pain. All her body, her joints, everything is like always so in pain. And so when I helped her through that, now I have more clients coming to me. And so I'll text her and be like, what were the things that like really worked for you that we did? What do you feel like didn't really work? Like, let's talk about it. And she feels so excited to tell me because it's something that she was able to turn the mess into a message. Like, she was able
That's
to
great.
heal through that and
That's
show
great.
me what I can do going forward. So I think if more people realize the things that are happening to you are happening for you, I think that's the mental change.
And you know, it's kind of tough also for women because I think for guys we have so many examples and inspiration we can draw information from, and be like, okay, this guy did this, he's CEO, entrepreneur, athlete. There's like so many role models.
Right.
But I think sometimes with girls it's different because you don't have like a lot of people you can be like look up to and stuff like that. So you're building your online community, which I think is great. I love the concept of community and everything. But how do you think what's the importance of for a woman that is in this path to have a strong community of like good women that believe in God, that are talking about this stuff and having that energy around them? Because I think a lot of women, a lot of girls, they fail in life and they actually never make any progress because they're surrounded by toxic women, girls that had all these traumas and walls, and they're hanging out. I mean, they're just lost in life, and I think they fail because of it. So what's the importance of community in women?
It's extremely important. I think a lot of times women want to be a certain way and they know their values to their core, they know their morals and everything, but since they're surrounded by people that are doing the opposite, it's so easy to fall into it. That's how I was. I've always been this way. I've always been a moral woman. I never really drank. I never really did any drugs or anything. I was always just a very sweet person.
You never
but then
drank?
getting with I've tasted alcohol before, but I've never gotten drunk before.
Really?
I just never cared for it. Like, there's really no deep reason. I just never cared for it. But then
And
I
like
was
drugs, like same thing?
yeah, nothing.
That's
Just
amazing.
never been
That's
just
great.
never really been interested in it.
That's
But like growing up, I mean, my mom was very, very religious growing up, and so like she even just started drinking coffee like a few weeks ago. Like she's she's given us that like sheltered kind of life. And so, and especially living where I live in like the suburbs and everything, it's like I never really was exposed too much. But then going to college, I was in a sorority. Everyone's like getting drunk all the
Where'd
time,
you go to
doing,
college?
huh?
Where'd you go to college?
I went to University of Nevada, Reno my first year, and then I went to Utah, University of Utah, the rest of the years.
Oh crap. Yeah.
Well, I was in a sorority when I was in Reno, and so when I was there, it's a party school. So everyone's
Yeah.
partying, everyone's drinking. Like I felt so out of place.
Yeah.
But yeah, where was I going with that? What was the question? I
And
feel like I was-
community.
Community. When I was there, I was around all the wrong people. And like there were some nice people, but like generally, I wasn't interested in that stuff. So there was a conflict of values. And they always say you're a product of the 5 people that you're closest to. So if I'm hanging out with my 5 closest sorority friends who are drinking and partying and everything, either I'm going to be the next or my values are going to give me so much anxiety. And so I was adapting, trying to be cooler, trying to live this lifestyle. Same with when I was in Utah. That's why I dyed my hair. That's why I had blue contacts, because everybody around me was doing it. Everyone was trying to look a certain way for these guys or whatever. And so I started doing it too. But now I think being rooted in like my best friends, every single friend that I have that I would consider a close friend is Christian. Every single one. It wasn't on purpose. It's because you don't want to hang out with me if you're not Christian. You're not going to like me. Like, we're not going to have anything to talk about.
Those are the
And
best
so,
friends to have.
yeah, they're so great because they keep you accountable in a way that nobody else can, and they teach you and show you like everything is biblical. Like all the values are biblical. Even health and nutrition, everything is biblical. Like I can pull out the receipts. Everything is biblical. And so if you come from that standpoint, now I'm so grateful to have my 5 closest friends because I'm not being swayed in any different direction. So that's why I think it's important to have friends that are on the same track. Let's say you're not religious and you want to be better about your fitness. Well, make sure you're hanging out with people that are going to push you that direction, not people that are going to take you to all you can eat sushi when you got goals to hit.
I agree. I think, and I don't know if this is the same thing with girls, but I think that this happens a lot with guys that they claim to be Christian and talk about God and post about it. But like, I know a lot of guys that they talk about it, but they're like having sex with chicks every weekend, doing cocaine, drinking like crazy. And I'm like, dude, like, I don't want to like say, I mean, it's not that I'm judging you, but like match your words with what you're doing,
Yeah.
you know, because it's very deceiving. And guys are good at manipulating too. So it's like girls get very deceived too by it.
Yeah.
And
One thing my sister said yesterday is people will act with feelings and then slap God's name on it. So people will say, oh, like, I'm Christian, I'm Christian, I'm Christian, but then they're like acting in all these different ways. And God's going to do the transformation and renewing in everybody's life. All you can do is lead people closer. I mean, we've all been that at some point. Like, I was saying I was Christian, but then I was hanging out with guys, all these different things, and I was in the wrong crowds and whatever. I wasn't living in the way I should have, but I would say that I was Christian. But I think when you actually, like, there's a difference between knowing God and knowing God. Like really knowing God. And when you really get in deep and know God, he will transform your heart. You cannot stop it. Like he's going to come in, he's going to change everything. You're going to stop listening to the music you listen to. You're going to stop hanging out with the friends you were with. You're going to stop doing everything. Your whole life is going to be different because he's coming in and he's changing everything. Because it's like, that's the whole difference between like religion and relationship with God. I wouldn't really consider myself religious, but I would consider myself having a strong relationship with God because that's what's the most important. That's when the renewing and the transformation happen.
yeah, and I've learned this by personal experience that at the end of the day, we think we might be able to fool God and like sin and be like, oh, I'm sorry and all this stuff, but like God will not be mocked. And at some point, you gotta feel the consequences of the bad stuff that we've made.
Right.
You know, for me, I went through like 2 months of like, I'm like, what the heck did I do? Like me, like I had all these standards and things that I was doing, but I'm like, I cannot do that again. And you have to feel the remorse. You have to feel the pain.
Right.
If not, you're not going to create a permanent change. And a lot of people, they change their behavior, but not their character, not their true nature, you
I
know?
like that.
And that's what I've learned, that at the end of the day, like, yeah, God will not be mocked. You can say all this stuff and do otherwise, but at some point you're going to have to like, it'll come back to you. It'll bite you in the butt, you know?
Right. Exactly.
So,
He sees everything.
yeah. Gosh, I had another. Wait, how much time you got? I know we've
How
already
much
like
time do you need?
Okay, yeah, I have a couple of questions for you. Something that you just mentioned with the community friends when you were in college and you started distancing yourself and everything. And I think for guys, and maybe it's because guys are more driven, more ambitious. We got like we want to work and all this stuff and everything. For guys, it's easier, or it comes more. Easier to isolate themselves. Comes more naturally. But for women, I don't think isolation comes very naturally for girls. But I think part of changing your life and having a strong foundation and going from girl to women is you have to isolate yourself because 99% of the time you're hanging out with the wrong crowd. So how hard was for you that season of your life of isolating yourself from certain people? And I'm pretty sure you went through this time of like maybe just you. And once you became that person you wanted to be, then you started like finding the right people. So talk a little bit about that isolation process you went through.
Yeah, I mean, I think with women, we do need community. We do need people, especially women around us, that are going to lift us up. I realized recently it's so important to spend time with my friends because I learned from my friends. I have that feminine energy during my day instead of like if I work with men all the time, just constant masculine energy. It's nice to just sit down with women and just talk. We don't have to do anything productive, but the first time that I feel like my life completely changed is when I moved to Utah, because when I was living in Utah, I was very much living for the world. I was not spiritual. I was depressed all the time. It was just not a good vibe. And I was living on campus in Utah. Then when the semester ended, I wasn't living in the dorms anymore. So I went to go move down to my mom's house, which was 45 minutes from campus. And I lived there alone for a whole year. So I was living there and I was overweight, I was unhappy, I had no friends. I had no friends in a 45-mile radius from my house. I didn't know what to do with my life. So I was so bored. I was just sitting there every day watching TV and doing homework, didn't know what to do. Then I sat down with myself one day and I was like, okay, you're struggling to lose weight. Maybe we'll get a gym membership. So I started going to Vasa and I was going there pretty often. And then I was like, cool, maybe let's figure out if we can eat healthy instead of having like frozen tamales all the time. And so then I started meal prepping and I was
Frozen
like, cool,
tamales?
Yeah, I was having those all the time. They're so good.
Why?
But then I started meal prepping. And yes, it was like extreme at the time. Like I was just doing like turkey and rice. It was not good. But I at least was like, okay, I'm alone now, so I can make my own schedule. I think when you live with your family or live with a boyfriend or live with your friends, it's hard to have your own groove, your own schedule. But that's when I was like, cool, like I can make this for myself. That's one thing though. But when I switched the person that I am was after that boy situation happened, actually, I sat down with myself and I was like, okay, so like, why are we not getting the things that we want in life, especially in relationships? Oh, it's because I am being this way. And so I don't think isolation necessarily means like sit in your room alone and don't do anything. I think it's like taking out the stimulus. So for me, it was men. So I went on a boy cleanse after that for like months. I was like, if you're a male, I even texted my best friend. I was like, don't talk to me right now. I don't need any guys right now in my life. I cut them all off. Everyone I was talking to deleted all dating apps and I just closed my DMs. I was like, you cannot message me. And after that, I was able to really focus and find my purpose actually. Because I was like, oh, like now I'm operating however I want to operate. My life is at my own fingertips. Like I can't control anything. I'm not trying to like play God or anything, but I can now step where I want to step without thinking, oh, is there going to be a cute guy at the gym? Or, oh, should I put on makeup because maybe I'm going to see a guy at the grocery store? Or, oh, I should, whatever. Like I was planning so many different things, but once you kind of get whatever the stimulus is away, that's the isolation that's super important, because that's where I was able to learn and grow and eventually meet the guy that I was dating, because I wouldn't have met him if I was still in that energy of wanting everybody.
No, and that's what I mean by isolation. I don't mean like close your bedroom door and watch Netflix all day, but actually maybe start saying no to hanging out with people every single weekend, and go to the gym, start reading books, go to church, go to this, go on a walk, like start your business, spend more time getting to know yourself, which I think a lot of people don't do that, especially guys or women. They hate being by themselves because they don't like themselves. I enjoy my bedtime so much. I love people too, but I think getting to know yourself and spending time with yourself is one of the most important things ever. If you don't like yourself, how the heck are you gonna love somebody else? There's like the second greatest commandment: love thy neighbor as thyself.
Right.
Same way you love yourself, and a lot of people don't do that, but they try to serve and do all these things. But I'm like, dude, you gotta start within yourself first.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people think of that verse and they only think about the love thy neighbor part. Like they only think, oh, I gotta love other people. But that's so true. Like if you hate yourself, don't love your neighbor as yourself. Like you need to love yourself so that you can love your neighbor.
You know, I had a conversation with a guy that I really look up to, and he knew me at one of my peak moments in my life when I was just like so locked in my purpose, spiritual stuff. And that was 2021, 2022, part of 23, and then 2024. I just made a lot of dumb decisions. And I had dinner with him like a couple months ago. I think it was December. And I was telling him all this stuff that, because I trust him a lot, all this stuff that I was doing, mistakes I did and everything. And he just looked at me. He's like, that's not the Ben I know. Like, dude, people would be like, people would tell me, he'd like, dude, I'm going to do this because Ben is doing it. Or if Ben doesn't do it, I'm not going to do it. And he's like, dude, you had that influence. You had that platform. Like, what happened? And I started changing, not just because of me, but I started changing also because of people. Because I'm like, you know what? God gave me an opportunity, gave me a platform, gave me influence, gave me all these different things and gifts and talents. And I have a duty, not just to God, but to the people that He made me responsible for. You know, and I don't think a lot of people think about that. I always say that in order for you to be selfless, you got to be selfish. Because once you realize that your purpose and why God created you is not for you to enjoy life and enjoy fashion and social media and travel the world and look at me, how much fun no. It's because you have gifts, talents, and skills that are so necessary for this time in society right now, especially in how messed up of a society we live in, that you got to share those things, that you got to raise the standards in your life for people to show them. You know, so it comes to a point that it's not about you anymore, that you got to live in a certain way because people are watching. And especially if you feel that you're different, if you feel like you have those leadership skills, it's your duty. It's your duty to God. It's your responsibility. It's your obligation. And that's when I started changing. I'm like, nah, dude, you're right. You're right. And I've been like running away from those things, and you're 100% right.
Right.
And
So good. It's like the parable of the talents. Like if you're not using your talent,
yeah,
like what are you doing? Why God blessed you with something,
Yeah.
and He trusted you. Like you don't want to break God's trust. God said, I gave I gave you the talent for speech. You're very good at communicating. You're very good at speaking to people. God gave you that. Let's say you decided not to use it. I'm just gonna work a desk
oh,
job.
I'm gonna go to hell. I'm going to hell if I don't use it. That's good.
I wouldn't go that far, but
I
like
need to use it.
God is not going to be pleased with that. Like
Yeah.
you use your gifts to glorify Him because He has blessed you with that. Not everybody was blessed with that gift, and the person that wasn't being blessed with the gift of speech was probably given the gift of being really good at detail oriented with things. Like there's so many different gifts that people are given, but if they're not using it, then it's not glorifying.
Yeah. I always think about this stuff of, would I rather be loved by God or trusted by God? And I think I always say trusted because God loves everybody, but He doesn't trust everybody. You know, He only trusts a few people that can do His work, that can preach His gospel, and that can take care of His children. You know, it's in the scriptures. There's this part in Matthew 9 that it always touches me because Christ is like healing a bunch of people. A lot of people are coming to Him. And He just like goes back to His apostles and He's like, guys, there's a lot of work to do. Like, please pray to the Lord of the vineyard so He can send more servants.
Right.
And you know, and I think that there's a lot of people in this world that they're just there. And it's written that only there's going to be very few servants and workers. And those are the very few people that God trusts.
Right.
And for the people listening, if like there's anything you can get out from this stuff is that everybody has a mission and purpose and why we're here. And I think that's the most important thing you can find in your life. And everything else is just secondary. Like your job, career, money, fitness, even your family. I think all those things help you so you can fulfill your mission more effective and more in a more productive way of why you're here. You know, and I don't know, that always touches me because at the end of the day, Christ is perfect and He truly is. And I truly believe He can do everything and He can. But lives are changed one at a time.
Absolutely.
One soul at a time, one heart at a time. You know, and He's not here helping people physically. His spirit is for sure, but at the end of the day, He uses people. He uses us.
Right.
And we have a responsibility to Him. You know?
The yes that you give could be somebody else's miracle. That's what I think when you were talking about the girl that you dated and then like that day she met the guy that she married, you saying yes to break up with her, like you telling God, I love this girl, but I'll do it because I feel the call. You allowed her to meet the man that she married, you know? Like sometimes we're like, it sucks obviously, That happened to me
Hey,
too.
no, I'm not gonna lie, that sucked. Like,
Yeah,
the
that
things.
happened to me too. When I was in high school, I was
I
dating
like you
this
dodged a
kid.
bullet.
I broke up with this kid in high school, and he, like the week that we had broken up, he went and like started dating his ex, and then they are married now. And I'm like, you know what? I had to be there because if I didn't break up with him, if I stayed with him, that may have not happened. Like the person was meant to be with, it may have not happened. So I think like us being obedient to what God says is really important because
Yeah,
then
that's a very mature perspective you have. I think sometimes I'm more like cutthroat, like screw you or whatever, and like cut
yeah.
people off my life and move on. But that's a very mature perspective for sure. I agree.
I mean,
And
everything happens for a reason. It might not be a reason directly to you. It could be a
yeah,
reason for somebody else.
yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And
Yeah.
what's your take on dating apps? You've mentioned a lot of dating apps throughout this an hour and 24 minutes we've been talking.
I think I mentioned it twice, but
You
I
mentioned
used
it
to be
like
on them.
6 times. I've been counting.
All right, I used to be on them when I was younger, but I'm not interested in those. I was on
Why?
them when I was in like a scarcity mindset of like, oh, there's not that good of men out there, but now I don't want to go on them because I'm like, the men that I want are not going to probably be on there. So
So do you recommend girls to be on dating apps or not really?
I don't have an opinion. Depends on what you're looking for.
Whatever they want.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people have really great relationships off dating apps, and I've seen people not. So I don't know. I don't want to have an opinion on that because I think it's different per person. And if God's calling somebody to meet somebody on a dating app, I don't want to be the one that steers them away from that. I think they have their uses. I just think,
Yeah.
in a general sense, you won't find too many good men on there because the really good men don't have time for it. You know, a lot of the guys that are actually in their business, like head down working and may need a woman that's strong and feminine and everything, they're probably not spending their time on that because what time do they have, you know?
That, that's true. That's true. Um,
It's per person. I don't know. Not having an
no,
opinion.
I agree with you. Dating apps for me, they bring you some like just like unnecessary stress. It's just like there's something to think about. It's just annoying.
I will say it's scary to be on a dating app as a woman in today's day and age. I would say
It's
it's
dangerous too. Yeah.
dangerous. Yeah, trusting
Yeah.
a man that you've never met is really scary. That's why I don't think I'll ever go on one again because I'd rather things be organic, not just because it's better to have everything organic, but because of safety. Like I don't want to go and meet somebody somewhere, not really know what they look like, have an awkward conversation. Maybe we're driving together. You just never know what can happen.
Or
I
you
feel like
can just get catfish. That's a big one.
right. You
That's
have to
like,
be like super street smart, I feel like,
yeah,
to succeed at the dating app game.
yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. And we've covered a lot of stuff. I've actually enjoyed this conversation a lot.
Yeah, it was
Covered a
good.
lot of the questions I had for you. Let me
Sweet.
see if there's anything else that I'm missing here. No, honestly, I just feel very good of all this stuff that we talked about. What's your last message, Ali? Let's wrap it up a little bit. What's your last message to women? If there's one thing that they can take away from all the stuff that we've talked about, what's that one thing that they can apply coming from you?
God loves you more than you can ever imagine, more than anything in this entire world. He created you specifically the way that you are. The things that you feel like are not perfect, God created those things. So everything that you have is so special and so unique. It's time to start loving yourself because that's the first step towards being a better you. And also realize too, somebody may have not accepted you for who you are, but every single thing that you have, there's somebody out there, a friend group, a man, whatever, there's somebody out there who wants you for all of those things that you bring to the table. So just knowing your energy and knowing your power in being the person that you are is very important.
I freaking love that. I think a lot of the times, if there's one thing that the devil can do, and he does pretty well, is he makes us forget where we come from and who we truly are. We're children of a king. We're children of the creator of the universe.
Crazy.
I'm a prince, you're a princess, and a lot of people don't think that way. We
Right.
live way below our means and our privileges and
Right.
the resources that our creator has given us. And I truly believe, as you mentioned, like he wants to talk to us. He wants to do life with us. He wants to be our business partner. He wants to be our best friend.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we limit ourselves from all that help just because we don't know how to get closer to him, or we have limitations or doubt or fear, all these different things. But I agree with you. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And thank you for making the time to have this conversation, being honest and share pieces and specific things about your life. I think a lot of people are going to love this interview. I think it's
This is
really good.
good. This is
It's a
fun.
good conversation. So anyway, guys, if you like this episode, I told you, share it with your friends. You know, as we said in the beginning, we're value driven. If you find value, if it helped you in some sort of way, post in your story, tag Ale, tag me, and send it to your friends. If you don't like it, don't share. I can't do anything with it. Maybe we suck and we gotta be better. I don't know. But if you found value in it, share it with your friends. So anyway, hey Ale, thank you so much, and I'll see you around, girl. Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh wait, let me cut this thing.